Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Happy Sunday. Happy March 12th. You guys, we're already almost halfway through March. Isn't that crazy?
That is bananas.
Welcome to the Sickle Cell Mental Health and Wellness Initiative. We are so excited that you could join us today. We have the lightweight team today, so that is okay. We are going to work through it. As you know, if you've joined us in the last couple of weeks, you understand that we're talking about our narrative, the story we tell ourselves. I'm excited to have the esteemed Dima Hendricks. My homegirl is doing all the things. Dima, you want to give a little how you doing today?
I'm great. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I am in a season, but you know what? I am highly favored, so I'm not going to complain. Um, we do ask that you guys, if you're listening to us and if you're all around and you're in the chat, if you could just give a quick shout out to our other members who couldn't be here today. Hey, Etta, welcome back. Give a quick shout out to our other team members. There, we have some people who are a little bit ill and not feeling well. And then some people who just couldn't make it. So we just want to make sure that we keep them in our back of our heads throughout we go today. So we're going to kick off today, as we usually do. I am not a breathwork coach, but we're going to do 3 collective breaths. How about starting off with getting ourselves a little centered? If you want to get your feet put on the ground, you want to get a little comfortable, and we're open to receiving. So palms up, because we are going to receive today. And so we're going to take a deep breath in, and we're going to hold that for 4 counts. And then we're going to breathe out for 4 counts. All right. So deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And last one, make sure you really take in and expand those lungs. Deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. And out. Now if you'll open your eyes and hopefully get some oxygen moving through our bodies. You know, us warriors, we need all the air we can get and oxygen we can get. So let's get started. So this week we're talking about narrative. We're continuing on from what we were doing last week. And Dima, do you want to get us started? We're going to talk about, our goal today is talk about what is your new story? How do you rewrite your story? And this week we actually have a journal to go along with our story. And if Sharonda wants to pull that up so she can share, we're going to give you all the links so you can all download this. But we really want you guys to take space and figure out what your story is and how to change your story. How do you change your narrative? Dima, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the things you do to change your story? I know you've done a lot.
Oh my. So the first thing I did was write I wrote out what I had in my head, and I actually wrote it in a book. So I just I went over everything in my past life that caused the trauma. Even having sickle cell, as we all know, it causes trauma. And then I kind of dissected my story and kind of like I didn't want to change the things that happened to me because they made me who I am. But what I did was kind of reparent myself. And in the areas that I knew that I needed a figure, or I needed a hug, or I needed that love, um, I kind of had, you know, it's a hard process, but I gave myself grace and love in that area, and then recreated another story. Because what I realized, once you kind of change your trauma story, you're able to master your emotions. So that's
Absolutely. That is powerful. Changing your trauma story helps you to master your emotions. That is, you are speaking some words tonight, Dima. Ooh, Bring it. I felt that because I understand that. I understand. I hope you all can write in the comments, how are you changing your story, or how have you in the past changed your story? Especially, Dima pointed out that we as warriors, we as caregivers, this community, we experience trauma over and over again. So I almost look at it as every time I'm hospitalized, it's like a new rebirth of life
That's
because
good.
I'm not promised to get out of the hospital. Each time it's almost like God we gonna work through this, or are we calling it quits? And so each time I kind of have been able to say, okay, here we are. What are we doing now? What does this next chapter hold? And for me, I have had many chapters. My husband tells me I'm not the same person I was last year. So I enjoy changing often and rewriting my story often. I can tell you from where I was just 10 years ago, moving to Texas, to where I am today. I could have never imagined my life being quite what it is. I'm happy with it. I'm so, so blessed. Um, but it is possible to rewrite our story. It is possible to be your own superhero. And I think that that's like a massive goal. How to do it? Well, that's the nitty gritty. A lot of that has to come with a lot of self work, right? And how we talk to ourselves. We talked a lot about that last week.
Yeah.
Self talk.
Mm. Sometimes you're going to need someone, though, to help assist you navigate through this negative self talk, whether it is a therapist, a trauma specialist, someone that understands trauma. That's essential because they'll be able to help guide you along. This is work that you can't do by yourself. And so that's why we provided this book. But I really, really hope that each and every one of you that are on here today really consider talking to someone that is certified and is specialized into doing the work with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I think she dropped off. So I'm here, and she was about to say something really dope, knowing Heather. But as I said before, and we're going to introduce the workbook, but there's something that's in the workbook that kind of caught my eye. Trauma is an event that knocks you off of your center, and stops you from continuing your life along the same trajectory. So trauma is not only a distraction, it really rocks you to your core and pushes you off to where you want to go. And trauma resurfaces sometimes, whether it's in PTSD, or a trauma response. It always kind of comes up, and it comes up when you least expect it. So just make sure that you have someone to help you with that. You were about to say something awesome and you got kicked off.
I
What were
don't
you?
know. I lost my words. See, that's a problem with me. I can never remember what I was going to say, but I do want to say that Dima is speaking some serious truth, y'all. And um, you do need someone to help you through some of those deepest, darkest moments. I remember having my son was a very hard moment for me. It was a very hard time. I never thought I was parent material, and it was a very hard season for me because I found taking care of myself was sometimes a challenge. Sickle cell oftentimes rocked my world left and right, and it was always the side effects of sickle cell. So it was never like the chronic crisis. I mean, yeah, that was that. I think I was more prepared for those than
Mhm.
things like acute chest syndrome, than things like
Mhm.
pulmonary embolisms, than things like avascular necrosis, and things like, DVTs. And so I was always rocked by those other things. Pneumonia, it was always something. And I was like, why is it always this weird? Like, I can handle the pain. I understand how to work with that, but I didn't really understand how to work with like the trauma of these other instances because no one ever talks about, people don't really talk about those offshoots, the things that can happen, all of the side effects, all the symptoms of sickle cell. So for me, it was very like, how do I work through this? And having my son was very, very difficult for me. I remember feeling very alone and very
Mhm.
isolated. And let me tell you, postnatal depression is a real thing. And it wasn't until many years later that I actually probably sought the help that I needed. And I probably would have needed it back then. I recently was listening to a TED talk, and she was talking about a study done on Black women and trauma.
Right.
And she was talking how we're less likely to be diagnosed with depression because our depression presents differently. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
yeah, there goes me right after I had my son. I'm sure I was severely depressed. I remember bringing him home from the hospital and just thinking, I was so sick. I was in such pain and I was really, really, really hurting. And I remember I had had a C-section. Was getting over pneumonia. I had a cough that would not go away. I was on oxygen. And I remember thinking, how am I supposed to parent this newborn child when I've been cut open, had a crisis, had acute chest syndrome, and I'm just trying to live? How can I take care of this child? And it was a really rough period of my life. And granted, my mom came in. I mean, if it wasn't for my mother who flew in for 4 weeks to stay with me and kind of help me, I don't know what I would have done. But it was a very hard season. But like as Dima said, I had someone. But I probably should have had mental health providers, and I wish that I had the knowledge that was okay even then. I thought that if they took that test that they give you after you have kids and they say, "Oh, you're not depressed," I just knew, and I thought that they may take my son away. And I remember feeling like, well, what if they take Jed away? Because I was feeling so ill. Um, and instead of getting the treatment that I probably needed in that time. So I had to rewrite that story. I had to start telling myself that I was a good mother and that he loved me and that I was going to take care of him the best I possibly knew how. And now he is so much fun and he is the joy of my life. But it was a really rough season in those beginning months. I hope that there are any comments out there, anyone listening. I would love to hear your thoughts as to, we keep getting kicked off. We're playing rope-a-dope today.
Right.
But I hope that you all are listening. Are there any comments? Anyone else out there? How have you um, reset, and restarted your life? What have you done to do that? We're really interested in hearing what the audience has to say. And also, while we're waiting for that to come through, Sharon, if you could pull up our little workbook, we're going to go over. These are some of the things that we want you to all think about. If you could turn to that page that we spoke about, Sharonda. So you guys can all get this. Sharon did post the link in the chat. But this talks about you really kind of doing a deep dig on your trauma story. And it doesn't have to be one story, because I think many of us have more than one story of trauma. The next one, Sharonda, it's the table of contents page. Did we move over that? I'm sorry. Move my glasses back on. No, back one. There we go. Oh. Back one. There we go. Okay. So these are some things that we wanted you all to think about while we're offline. Throughout the week, we really want you to do a deep dig on what is your trauma story, reframing your story. And that's what we're really talking about today, is how do we change the narrative? How do we change our own narrative so that way we're not living in our past traumas? I recently spoke about a trauma that I had with Dr. Rowley and her team at Cayenne Wellness, and about it was a trauma of a doctor not believing me and me ending up in ICU for some time. And everyone said, "Well, you speak really eloquently about it." And I remember how I felt so angry about it. But I had to rewrite that story. Instead of me being angry, I had to tell myself, I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to tell it to anyone who will listen. Because I think it's one of the most defining stories of my life, because it showed me what the healthcare system in the United States is and what people are willing to do. And then how do we use writing as a tool? We'll kind of go over that next week. Writing activity, and then what is your news story? We are going to ask you all to kind of write your news story, write what you want to see yourself moving forward. And this goes back to writing about, doing our vision boarding, writing your news story. How do you you share with the world what's next for you, and making big claims and kind of seeing those claims come to fruition. For me, I know that big claims are a great way to move forward. They're a great way for me to kind of jump forward into time. I say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to see myself. And I just ask for it and put it out there. And God is usually like, okay, I'm going to deliver it. Always on his time, never on mine, but that's okay. Learning to work with that. It looks like Dima got kicked off again. It's we're playing change up today. It's our connection seems to be a little bad. There she is.
I'm here.
Yay!
I don't know
Welcome
what's going
back.
on today.
Oh,
Funky
it is
day.
a day. It is a day. So I was just talking about writing your new story and creating your new story. How have you and how do you think moving forward with the tools you have now, do you think that you will be able to recreate your new story?
Oh, that's a good question. Because the tools that I have now, I wish I had when I was younger.
Yes.
And I was
Yes.
able to navigate better. Um, the breath work that we're doing,
Oh,
I had no idea about it before. The, even the medication and the vitamins that I have now, I didn't have access to it back then. Um, and then there's therapeutic techniques that I learned. Had no clue back then. And
mm,
now these are tools that is keeping me calmer, keeping me sane, and is helping me navigate through my trauma. And
absolutely.
yeah, and honestly, I feel like I wouldn't have had such bad trauma if I had these tools before. I would be able to,
Right.
like, just the simple talking about my feelings in an appropriate manner.
I think you said so much in that, talking about our feelings. We're taught, I think, and even from young children, especially Black women,
Mm.
like, didn't, I don't know if I'm coming from the generation of I'll give you something to cry about parents.
Oh my God, yes.
I
80 babies.
don't know if anyone out there can relate, but my mama was like, you keep crying, I'll give you something to cry about. And I was like, wait. And it's so funny because my son will cry and he'll be upset. My mother's like, well, you better spank his bottom. And I'm like, why? We're
Why?
having emotions. I think that that's healthy. I said, we're breaking generational curses here. My mom gets real mad when I say that. She's like,
Yeah.
why? Yeah, like I'm the worst. But I'm like, no, I just think that know better, do better. And I say that often to my entire family because, my family is a family of baby boomers. And they're
Yes.
like, spank his bottom. And I'm like, for
Mm,
being
for what?
upset, is that going to help him?
I am so glad you mentioned that. I'm gonna have a little transparent moment. Maybe it's too transparent. Maybe I'm giving too much information, but I think my vulnerability may help whoever else is out there. Um,
Absolutely.
so when I was younger, because of sickle cell, I would wet the bed, and I could not stop for the life of me. Like, what has happened? Not realizing, oh, it's your kidneys. It's like it's really now I know in retrospect, in hindsight, that was what it was. It was sickle cell.
It's a real problem.
It's a real issue. Um, and my mother was like, I would get a spanking, you
Hmm.
know? And it's something because she didn't know
Hmm.
that it was a real I didn't find out it was a problem until the late 2000s, 2010s.
I believe you.
So, growing up as an 80s baby, I would be punished for my body betraying itself. And so, and not just because, I was not the bedwetting thing. It was just like everything. Our bodies would go into if I would go into shock, if I would get in trouble, and so
Yeah,
they didn't
you
know
felt like a burden.
I was a burden. I
Oh,
was
I remember. I remember it clearly. I remember waking my parents up at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and I hated it. I used to feel
yeah.
so guilty. And it wasn't until, like you said, I was in my 20s and I went to therapy, and I was talking to a therapist. I went to therapy for something completely different, but we were talking about guilt, and I was like, yeah, I'm so guilty. like, Mom, I don't want to be a burden. She's like, a burden on who? I'm like, my parents, they're still taking care of me. I'm 26, 27 years old, and they're still like taking me to the hospital and picking me up. My dad still has to carry me down flights of stairs when I can't leave my apartment and I
Mm.
can't walk. And, it's embarrassing. And my dad and my mom have to come take care of me. And I owe them the world. And my therapist looked at me and she goes, why do you owe them? And I was like, because look at them. They're still taking care of me. And I'm a grown up. And they're like, she said to me, did you choose to have sickle cell?
Right.
And I was
That
like, well, no. She's like, so your parents gave you sickle cell? I was like,
that part.
yeah. She's like, did they know that they had the trait? I was like, yeah, because my brother. And they were like, yeah, they had another kid anyway. I was like, yeah. And she said, so why do you feel like you owe them? And I said, because they've done so much for me. And she said, but wouldn't you, if you had a child, do the same? Did you choose to be brought into this world? Whoa. You want to talk about being hit by a brick with that one? I was like, she's like, did you choose your life? Did you choose like to live this life? I was, no.
Mm-mm.
She's like, but your parents chose for you.
Right.
So that's on them.
Right.
Don't feel guilty over them. That was one of the most profound something someone ever said to me, because I always felt like a burden. And it was literally in that moment where I released that. So now when I call my mama from Michigan to come down here and take care of me, I don't feel any type of guilt. I'm like, you come take care of me. My husband got to go to work.
Right.
I'm like, this is what you signed up for, woman. You had me. Come on.
Oh.
And she's like, I'm on a plane. I'm coming. but I don't feel that burden. And the thing is I didn't realize how heavy,
It is
full
heavy.
transparency, how heavy that was, and how weighty that felt, that you felt like a burden to everyone. Even my husband, people say, well, don't you feel like a burden to him? Absolutely not. Before he married me, I told him I have sickle cell. This is what it looks like. This is how it works, and this is how much it costs. You want to marry me still? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. Well, then I released myself from that, because I was like, I told you straight up.
Yeah.
When those medical bills come rolling in, I do not feel bad. I'd be like, well,
Oh well.
this you chose me, bro.
Shoot.
It gave me a new perspective
Anyway,
on
so
life. What's that?
I'm paying my bills anyway, so yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do. I pay a lot, but
Yeah.
it gave me perspective in seeing and not feeling so burdened. And now, even when I have aunties and uncles say, well, don't you owe it to your parents to do X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, no, I don't owe them nothing. They're like, what? I said, I treat my mother with kindness. I buy my mama flowers every time she comes and stays with me. I take care of her when she comes. I spoil her rotten. I spoil my daddy rotten. But no, I don't feel like I owe them anything. They had me. That's their job. My son doesn't owe me anything.
Yeah.
I want him to experience life unburdened by the fact that he owes me. He doesn't owe me. You're a good kid. Be a good kid. Go play. Go have fun. Go break stuff. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You're 5.
Yeah. There's such a freedom in that. I don't, I don't owe anything and I'm not a burden. There's such a a woosah.
There
And
is. It is a
selah,
woosah.
like a peace about it. And I'm getting there. I'm not there yet. I do still feel like a burden, but I'm getting there.
Well, hey, just know that you didn't choose sickle cell.
Right. Right.
And I think telling myself that for a long time really helped me understand that I didn't choose this. I didn't choose the warrior life.
Ooh.
I don't think anyone would choose
Who
this.
would do this? What kind of life is this? Gross.
But I do feel that I have it. I have,
Mhm.
and then and then I can use it as a tool.
Right.
So I didn't choose it, but I can use it. So I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. I'm going to pour into everyone out there, because yeah, sometimes life really, really, really is not my best friend.
Mm.
But I am no one's burden. I'm here for a reason. And I think about that every time I have gotten close to death in those hospital beds, and I was like, okay, God, are we doing this, or what's this tango? Why is
Yeah.
Jesus like sitting next to me right now? Like, why are
Right.
we having a conversation? Like, Are we? And you know,
You stepping into
and
it, Carol Ann? What's happening? What's
yeah, like, are we doing? Is this it? And but every time I come out and I'm like, okay, well, there's a reason for this. There's a reason this is happening. So I try to find those reasons. I think we have gotten way off topic,
we did, but it's okay.
but I think it's okay. I just want to hear from our audience. It seems like we probably have a light crew today, and that's fine because I know that, as you can tell, it's a light leadership team today. So we're batting 100 today.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to offer a second for anyone else out there to have, if they have anything to say, to drop us a note, because we believe that your stories and your thoughts and ideals are powerful. I don't know how to write my own story. I have to think about this. Well, that's okay, Edit. And you know what? You can always call on either of us or any of the leadership team to help you, because I bet you your story is incredible. There's no way that it's not, as a warrior. Everyone's story as a warrior, and the warriors in this space are I've always taken care of my family, and I don't think about myself. Now that my young adults are older, I want to do things for me now. Absolutely.
It's time for you.
It's time for you. Girl, you better go have some fun and do some things.
Do the things.
Get your passport, travel, go somewhere.
Stamps.
You just wrote your story after 12 years, and it's awaiting publication, due for release in July, August. Oh, that's amazing. Heather, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's huge. I was actually talking to another warrior recently about writing my story, because everyone always says, well, you should write a book. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't write. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool to get a collection of short stories together? That would be fun.
Yeah.
Hi, Facebook user. We don't know who you are.
First time in the community like this. Well, welcome to the community.
Welcome to Sickle Cell Mental Health and Wellness. Come on in, enjoy. We're just chit-chatting about our narrative and the story we write. So come on in.
And the story you write can just one day actually turn into a book. Like, it can just be a whole published thing that's available on Amazon. Like, it can really happen.
Heck yeah.
Shameless plug.
Self-plug.
Unleashing Royalty on Amazon. Hi, AJ.
Sorry, AJ. Hi, AJ. Welcome in. Yeah, but something that I do is I keep a notebook, and I have one, and I write in it every day. But usually I just literally write like daily stuff in here. It has everything from grocery lists to prayers to notes about people, things I want to remember. I write it all down, and I probably have about 20 of these brown notebooks. I order them, get my little name put on them. And these are wonderful tools to kind of look back at and see where I was in different spaces and different times. Because it's, Facebook takes you back, but this actually really takes me back. Cause I'm like, oh man, I was having a messed up day. Look at my handwriting.
Oh yeah. You can, especially when you're in pain. Your
handwriting changes.
Oh my God.
It becomes really illegible, but it's like you can tell it's short, swift, and I call it my attitude writing. Like, I have a big attitude. Yeah. So just some things to think about. Well, I don't want to keep you. We are at just about 7:40 Eastern.
That was quick.
Yeah, I know, it went by so fast, y'all. We were together for a half an hour. Is there any other comments or anything else you have to say before we're going to do 3 more collective breaths today? I'm going to have Dima lead this time. And we're going to, we're just going to do 3 collective breaths to end our session and hopefully close out. And we hope, again, that you join us again next week. We'll be talking again about narrative. And this part will be more about the journaling portion of your narrative and how we can start with just one-word phrases. So we always look forward to seeing you on Sunday evenings. So Dima, would you like to close us out?
So we're gonna actually put the book in the chat. Is it already in the chat?
It is, and it's connected in the chat, so you can download it.
Okay.
And read through it this week and bring your questions or conversations. We really want to hear from you next week. I think that's important. And next week will be my birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday! Okay.
Next Sunday.
Celebrate.
But I'll be here.
Okay. Awesome. We'll make sure that the book is in the chat again. Etta, thank you so much. And again, thank you guys for joining. So we're going to close out. Palms up so you're ready to receive. Be nice and relaxed and loose. And then you're going to take a deep breath and hold it in for 4 and breathe out for 4. Are we ready? All right, deep breath in. Hold for 4, 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Breathe in again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. And out. 2, 3, 4. Last time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And out. 2, 3, 4. All right. And shake it out. All right. I hope you enjoyed today. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us. All
Thank you,
right.
everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye bye.